mocked his insecurities at a neighborhood party thinking he won't mind, but when he looked at me... Hey Reddit, this is a throwaway account because the story is so embarrassing, and I don't want my husband finding out I made a Reddit post about it as he follows my main. I'm in a really bad situation, and I honestly don't know what to do. My name is Lisa, I'm 24 years old, and my husband Jack is 26. We've been married for 3 years and have known each other since college. I never imagined our life would come to this point. I guess it all started with a series of misunderstandings and my own careless behavior. I apologize in advance if this is a bit over the place, but I am still so hurt and confused. You see, Jack is a bit of an introvert, and I've always been the social butterfly. I love throwing parties, hosting gatherings, and being the life of the event, while Jack prefers quiet nights at home with a good book or a movie. He's always been supportive of my social nature, even though it's not his thing. But my actions went too far, and I deeply regret what happened. Now for a bit of backstory, Jack has always been a bit of a simp. I know that word carries a lot of negative connotations, and I don't like to use it, but I can't think of a better term right now. He's always been willing to bend over backwards to please me, doing everything in his power to make our relationship work. I guess I underestimated him because of that. I thought he would never be able to do without me, that he loved me too much to ever stand up to me. Jack was the kind of guy who would surprise me with my favorite coffee in the morning, even if it meant waking up early to get it. He'd cancel his plans to spend time with me if I was feeling down, and he always put my needs before his own. He was sweet, attentive, and always eager to make me happy. In the back of my mind, I started to take all of this for granted. I didn't appreciate just how much effort he put into our relationship, and I certainly didn't think about how my behavior might be affecting him. Now, as a result of Jack's willingness to do whatever I wanted, I decided I wanted to be a stay-at-home wife, even though we didn't have any kids yet. He agreed without hesitation. Jack was always willing to do whatever it took to make me happy, and I started to take advantage of that. I began to pull away from the relationship, doing less and less around the house, and expecting Jack to pick up the slack. He would come home from a long day at work, tired and stressed, only to find that I hadn't even bothered to make dinner. And yet, he never complained. He would just roll up his sleeves and get to work, cooking, cleaning, doing whatever needed to be done. I started to see Jack as weak. He was always there, always willing to bend over backward for me. I began to resent him for it. I wanted someone strong, someone who could challenge me, not someone who would cater to my every whim. I started spending more time with my friends, going out and having fun while Jack stayed home. I would mock him behind his back, joking with my friends about how much of a simp he was. They would laugh and egg me on, telling me I deserved better, that I should find someone who could keep up with me. The more I pulled away, the more Jack tried to hold on. He would surprise me with gifts, plan romantic dinners, and try to engage me in conversations about our future. But I had already checked out. I didn't want to be with someone who worshipped the ground I walked on. I wanted excitement, passion, and adventure. Our relationship became a cycle of Jack trying to please me and me pushing him further away. I started flirting with other guys, enjoying the attention and the thrill of being desired. Jack noticed, of course, but he never said anything. He just tried harder to make me happy, thinking that if he loved me enough, I would come back to him. Now, because of the way I treated Jack, a lot of our friends who lived close to us started to see him as less. It wasn't just the snide comments and jokes I made about him, it was the way I dismissed him in front of others, the way I rolled my eyes when he tried to contribute to a conversation, and the way I would sometimes ignore him entirely when we were out with friends. Our friends picked up on my behavior and followed my lead. They began to treat Jack with less respect too. They would make jokes at his expense, call him out for being too accommodating, and tease him about being whipped. Jack, ever the peacemaker, would laugh along, never showing any signs of hurt or anger. There were times when I could see a flicker of pain in his eyes, but he would quickly mask it with a smile. He would shrug it off, saying he was just happy to see me having a good time. I never realized how much it was hurting him, how much it was chipping away at his self-esteem and sense of worth. Jack's friends, the few he had left, started distancing themselves from him. They couldn't understand why he put up with my behavior. They would tell him he deserved better, that he needed to stand up for himself. But Jack would always defend me. He would say that I was going through a phase, that I just needed some time, and that he loved me no matter what. The more Jack defended me, the more our friends saw him as weak. They lost respect for him, and in turn, I lost respect for him too. It became a vicious cycle, one that I didn't know how to break. I started spending more time with friends who encouraged my behavior, who told me I was too good for Jack and that I should find someone who matched my energy and ambition. Jack, on the other hand, retreated further into himself. He focused on his work, throwing himself into projects and taking on extra hours. He became quieter, more reserved, and less inclined to engage in social activities. When we did go out, he would hang back, letting me take the spotlight. I was too wrapped up in my own world to notice the toll it was taking on him. Looking back, I realized how unfair I was to Jack. He deserved so much better than what I was giving him. He was a good man, a kind and loving partner, and I took him for granted. I let my own insecurities and need for validation drive a wedge between us, and I pushed away the one person who loved me unconditionally. I can still remember a lot of specific events where I undermined and disrespected Jack, and since I feel like ranting, I will tell you guys about some of them. I apologize if this gets too lengthy. It all started a few months before the neighborhood party, around the time I began pulling away from Jack. I had reconnected with some old friends from college who had recently moved into the neighborhood. They were fun, outgoing, and seemed to have the kind of life I thought I wanted, full of excitement and a carefree attitude. One Friday night, my friend Tina invited me to a girls' night out. It was supposed to be just a casual dinner, but it quickly turned into a night of bar hopping and dancing. Jack was supportive as always, encouraging me to go out and have fun. He even insisted on giving me some extra money to cover any expenses. I didn't think twice about it and accepted his offer without hesitation. That night was the first time I openly mocked Jack in front of my friends. As the drinks were flowing, so did my tongue. I told them about how Jack would do anything for me, how he was always bending over backwards to please me, and how he let me be a stay-at-home wife despite not having kids. Tina and the others laughed. They kept on egging me on, and I enjoyed the attention. The next morning, I woke up with a hangover and a nagging feeling of guilt. Jack had made me breakfast, as he always did after my nights out. He asked me how my night was, and I gave him a vague answer, not wanting to go into details. I could see the concern in his eyes, but he didn't press further. Instead, he told me he was glad I had fun and that he loved me. The guilt I had been feeling was quickly replaced by annoyance, and I brushed him off. As the weeks went by, I started going out more frequently with my friends. Jack continued to support me, even though it was clear he was growing more and more tired. Our conversations became shorter and our interactions more strained. I could sense his disappointment, but I chose to ignore it, convincing myself that he would never leave me. One night, Tina and a few other friends came over to our house for a movie night. Jack had cooked dinner for us and then retreated to the bedroom to give us space. After a few glasses of wine, the conversation turned to relationships. Tina started talking about her boyfriend and how she wished he was as devoted as Jack. This led to more jokes and comments about how Jack was too good for me, how I had him wrapped around my finger, and how he was such a pushover. I was fueled by the alcohol and the laughter of my friends, so I joined in. I made fun of Jack's habits, his quirks, and how he would do anything to make me happy. I even joked about how I could probably tell him to jump off a cliff and he would ask me how high. The laughter that followed made me feel powerful, and yes, deep down, I knew it was wrong. Jack must have heard everything, but he never said a word about it. The next morning, he acted as if nothing had happened, though I could see the hurt in his eyes. He kissed me on the forehead, told me he loved me, and went off to work. I felt a pang of guilt, but I quickly pushed it aside. The final straw came a week before the neighborhood party. Jack and I had been invited to a barbecue at our neighbor's house. It was a warm, sunny day, and everyone was in high spirits. As usual, Jack was the perfect husband, helping out with the grill, making sure everyone had enough to eat and drink, and generally being his kind and generous self. At some point during the afternoon, a group of us started talking about relationships again. The conversation turned to how much effort our partners put into making us happy. I started bragging about how Jack did everything for me, how he catered to my every whim, and how he was the perfect husband. My friends laughed and started making jokes about how Jack was whipped, how he was too good to be true, and how I had him completely under my control. Jack was standing nearby, and I could see him listening to our conversation. Instead of feeling proud, I felt a sense of shame wash over me. But the need to impress my friends and maintain my image was stronger than my guilt. I laughed along with them and even made more jokes at Jack's expense. That night, when we got home, Jack didn't say a word. He went straight to bed and left me alone in the living room. I sat there for a long time. I felt angry, but I also felt regret. I knew I'd pushed him too far, but I didn't know how to fix it. I convinced myself that things would blow over, as they always did, and that Jack would forgive me like he always had. Little did I know that barbecue was the breaking point for Jack. The neighborhood party was also just the beginning of the end. It was the night that everything came crashing down. It was just another typical gathering, something our community does often. We live in a close-knit neighborhood, and these parties are a way for everyone to catch up, relax, and have fun. But that night, I made a terrible mistake. The neighborhood party was organized by our neighbors. Everyone was there, laughing, eating, and drinking. Jack, being the helpful guy he is, was manning the grill. I was mingling with my friends, and after a few drinks, we started talking about our husbands. The conversation naturally drifted toward Jack. My friends knew how much he doted on me, and they found it amusing. Someone mentioned how lucky I was to have a husband who would do anything for me. Feeling a bit tipsy, I laughed and started joking about how Jack was always willing to do whatever I asked, how he never said no, and how sometimes it felt like he didn't have a backbone. The laughter and jokes continued, with my friends making comments about how whipped Jack was and how nice it must be to have someone so willing to please. That's when I noticed the sudden silence. I turned around and saw Jack standing there, his face pale and expressionless. He had clearly heard everything. Jack walked over to the table where everyone was sitting. He looked at me and told me that we had to talk. I was shocked, but I agreed. Jack led me to a quieter corner of the yard. Of course, the party continued, but I could literally feel all their eyes on us. That was when Jack told me that he was done. At first, I was shocked and tried to laugh it off as a joke, but Jack wasn't smiling. He said he was tired of me disrespecting him and making everyone else disrespect him too. He said he was done and was leaving the party right now, and he didn't want me coming back to his house. He said that my things would be waiting for me on the porch, and with that, he walked off. I was stunned. I could literally see everyone staring at me with pity. They might not have heard what was said, but with the look on our faces and the way he had walked off, they could put two and two together. Of course, I followed after Jack hurriedly. He had gotten to the house before me, and he was now going through my stuff. I tried to stop him, tried to beg, cried, did whatever I could and knew would get to him, but it was like he had closed off his heart to me. He was no longer listening to me, wouldn't even hear me out. He just kept on packing my stuff and refusing to stop. He eventually finished packing while I just cried, then threw out my things and kicked me out. At first, I refused to leave, but he told me that he would call the police, and that would make things even harder for me, so I eventually left. The neighbors were staring at me, even my friends, and none of them put in an effort to approach me. They all just stared from a distance. I walked down the street, carrying what I could. Tears were streaming down my face. My mind was racing, trying to process what had just happened. I had underestimated Jack for so long, I never imagined he would have the strength to stand up to me, to take such a drastic step. I eventually ended up at a nearby park. I then called my dad to come pick me up. Thankfully, he came quickly. He was very disappointed to hear what had happened, but took me back home. I've been there for a few days now, and I don't know what to do. I've been trying to call my husband, but he won't pick up. He won't answer when I text, and I just don't know what to do. Update. Hey, Reddit. Wow, Reddit is such a toxic place. I should have known better. I know that I was wrong, guys. I don't need you all to remind me of it constantly. I came here looking for advice, not for criticism. Can you guys just stop? The hate has been overwhelming, and I regret posting here for advice. I wanted some guidance, not insults. Also, to answer some frequently asked questions, no, I don't have a job. I literally stated that in the first post, so I don't know why you guys keep asking me. Second, no, my relationship is not over. We will work things out, hopefully. And no, this is not fake. I have way better things to do than waste my time creating an account on Reddit just to make up a fake story. Yes, I know I need to find a job and start rebuilding my life, but it's hard to focus on that when my mind is consumed with thoughts of Jack. I miss him so much, and I hate that my actions have pushed him away. I wish I could take it all back and do things differently, but I know that's not possible. To everyone who has offered constructive advice, thank you. Your words have been a lifeline in this dark time. For those who just came here to criticize and insult, please understand that I'm already facing the consequences of my actions. I don't need any more negativity. I'm trying to take things one day at a time to figure out how to make amends and show Jack that I can change. It's not going to be easy, but I'm determined to do whatever it takes. If anyone has any real advice on how to navigate this, I'm all ears. Thanks for reading. Update. Hey Reddit, I honestly don't know why I still bother updating here since it's such a toxic place. But since I have nothing better to do and nowhere else to rant, why not? First of all, I am so thankful for my parents. Without them, I would literally be homeless right now. They've been my rock through all of this, and I don't know what I would do without their support. Second of all, I now realize that all my friends, including Tina, are fake. None of them reached out to me, even though they witnessed what happened. Not a text, not a call. They are horrible people, and I have blocked them. It's clear they never really cared about me. As for my husband, he has finally talked to me, and he is adamant about the divorce. I know he's going to regret this. He's going to miss me, but I'm going to give him what he wants. And when he comes running back to me, I am not going to take him back. So yeah, that's it. I'm still trying to figure out my next steps. It's hard to think about the future when everything feels so uncertain. I've been applying for jobs, but nothing has come through yet. It's discouraging, but I'm trying to stay hopeful.
Alright.
I still can't believe how quickly everything fell apart. One moment, I was at the top of the world, surrounded by people I thought were my friends. The next, I was standing in the middle of a park, my life in shambles. It's a lot to process, and I'm still struggling to come to terms with it. Despite everything, I'm determined to move forward. I know I've made mistakes, and I'm willing to do the work to become a better person. But it's hard not to feel bitter about how things have turned out. I gave so much to my friends and to my husband, and now I'm left with nothing. To anyone who has been supportive, thank you. Your kindness means more than you know. To those who have been harsh and judgmental, I hope you never find yourself in a situation like mine. It's easy to throw stones from the outside, but it's a lot harder to pick up the pieces when your life falls apart. For now, I'm just taking things one day at a time. I'm focusing on finding a job, saving up some money, and eventually getting my own place. It's going to be a long road, but I'm determined to get there. I don't need anyone's pity or judgment. I just need to keep moving forward. Thanks for reading. Update. Hey Reddit. Yeah, it's me again. I know it's been months since my last update, and that's because it just became too toxic for me here. I kept getting annoying, hateful, and mean direct messages. Even the comments were horrible. Sure, there were a few good ones, but mostly they were awful, so I took a break from Reddit. On the upside, I am here to give you guys a final update, since things have finally worked out. Well, not exactly for me, but yeah, the divorce has been finalized. So much has happened, and I'm still living with my parents. I have a job now. It's very low paying, and my dad helped me get it. I hate it, but I have no choice. I just need to work with it for a while. Save up, gather some experience, and then hopefully get a better job. As for the divorce, it was pretty quick, considering everything. It took a few months, but it was straightforward. The house belonged to my husband even before we got married, and I was a stay-at-home wife. So, I got a bit of alimony, but it was only a little. I'm just glad I got something out of it. We didn't have any debts, and since we didn't have any kids, there were no child custody payments involved. I've still tried to talk some sense into my husband's head, but he wouldn't listen, so I guess he's really done with me. The sad thing is, he seems happier without me, and I really don't know how that makes me feel. Horrible, I guess. I know I fucked up. I know what I did was horrible, and I'll never forgive myself for it. Anyway, I don't want to hang around Reddit anymore because, as I've said, it's a very toxic place. But I guess I owed you guys one last update, hence why I'm posting this. To all the people who gave me hate, please go get a life. Thanks for reading, and goodbye. Update. Hey Reddit, I know I said that was my last update, but I just had to fill you guys in on this crazy thing I found out. Crazy thing is, all my single friends who used to join me in mocking my ex-husband are now trying to get with him. And how did I find out about this? Well, I ran into someone from the neighborhood recently. The ironic thing is, back when I was with my husband, I didn't really talk to her because she and Tina had issues, and Tina didn't want us hanging out with her. Thankfully, she accepted my apology and filled me in on what had been going on in the neighborhood. She told me that my ex-husband didn't really seem eager to get with any of them, which is good because, to be honest, they are all horrible people. It's funny how things turn out. The very people who helped drive a wedge between us are now scrambling to get his attention. It's a bitter pill to swallow, and I now realize how superficial and disloyal they were, but I guess it's a lesson learned. Running into this old acquaintance was a small silver lining in the mess of my life right now. She was surprisingly understanding and didn't hold my past behavior against me. She even offered to help me out if I ever needed anything, which was a relief. It's nice to know there are still decent people out there. I've been spending my days trying to piece my life back together. The job I mentioned in my last update is still as terrible as ever, but at least it's something. I've been saving up as much as I can. I'm hoping to eventually move out of my parents' place and get my own apartment. It's tough, but I'm determined to make it work. My ex-husband and I still don't talk. I've tried reaching out a few more times, but he's completely shut me out. I can't blame him really. I was awful to him, and it's clear he's better off without me. Seeing him happier without me is a constant reminder of how badly I messed up. I'm trying to use that as motivation to be a better person, but it's not easy. I've also been reflecting a lot on my actions and how they led to this point. It's been a humbling experience, to say the least. I've started therapy, which has been helpful. My therapist is helping me work through my issues and understand why I behaved the way I did. It's a long road, but I'm committed to changing for the better. Anyway, that's the latest and last update. I'm trying to stay positive and focus on the future. It's hard, but I'm taking it one day at a time. To those of you who offered constructive advice and support, thank you. It means more than you know. And to those who continue to send hate, please, just move on. We all make mistakes, and I'm doing my best to learn from mine. Life is too short to hold on to so much negativity. Thanks for reading and take care. Someone once said, "The what ifs and maybes are all that's left, a constant reminder of what could have been." And regretfully, I agree with that someone. Maybe the person was writing that quote from a place of deep pains and regret, a place where I am at right now, one I would give anything on earth right now to avoid. But sadly, I brought the situation upon myself. Hello, Reddits. My name is Dee. I will use the initial of my name because I do not want anyone coming after me after I make this post. I am 33 years old. I work at a bank, and in fact, the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, of the bank I work for. I won't mention the name of the bank for security purposes. I've been married for 13 years now. Yes, I know what you're all thinking. I got married really early. George, I will use this as my husband's name, and I met when I was just 20 and fresh out of college. He was 26 then and was always working. Oh, by the way, George is also a banker like I am. I fell in love deeply with George, and we wasted no time and got married as quickly as possible despite all opposition from both his parents and mine, ... In fact, my parents cut me off totally believing that I wasted their whole efforts of sending me through college. Honestly, I understand them now because then, George was only a clerk at the bank and was merely surviving on a measly salary. But at that age, we've all made stupid decisions, so don't blame me. Well, George and I got married, as I stated earlier, within months of meeting, and luckily enough for us, or should I say for me, I got a job at the same bank where George was working. Our first 3 years of marriage was very amazing. George was in fact the sweetest husband one could ever pray for. He was caring, attentive, supportive, and despite his little earnings, he always made sure he took me out on surprise dates, sometimes dinner when we finished early from work, and buy me gifts. No, we had both agreed on not having children before we got married, and we believed we were both still too young to have kids, and that it would affect our careers. Everything was going so well for us until then, it just wasn't. I think everything started 4 years into our marriage. George was promoted at work, and I honestly felt really happy for him. Okay, I won't lie, maybe I was a little jealous. I mean, I was clearly the more intelligent one amongst us. I'm usually helping him with his work whenever he had to bring them home, and I helped him secure a huge contract with a big client who was my college friend back in school. George was lacking behind on targets, and I hated the way the boss kept yelling at him in his office and how distressed he'd be when he was home and would barely give me any attention. So when I got the call from my college friend that he wanted to invest, and since he knew I was the banker in our friendship, he wanted it to be me who helped him out with the whole thing. I do not want to bore you with the whole details, but I pleaded with my friend to let my husband be in charge, and he reluctantly agreed. I don't think I could ever forget that night. It was the best night of my life in our marriage. The day George got promoted at work. He came bearing gifts, and there were lots, mind you. And we made love that night. It was the best we ever had. The admiration in his eyes, his tender touches and loving. It was all amazing. I was happy that I could give him that. And so after that, every important deal that I got, I gave him, since it always made him happy. Until one fateful night. Our bank decided to celebrate its 10th year anniversary massively, and so that automatically meant award night. I was giddy with excitement, not for myself but for him, George, because I knew he was going to be awarded, going by the rumors in the office. I specially dressed my husband that night in anticipation of that night. I personally took care of the suit he wore that night, his hair, and carefully selected his shoes. I paid less attention to myself because I knew he was going to be the center of attention, so I had dressed almost casually that day. Imagine the surprise I got when I was named the best worker of the year and I had to go up to receive a medal. Apparently, my friend and most clients I'd gotten across to my husband were always singing my praises and were usually telling my bosses that I was the one who brought them on. Shockingly, I was given a promotion and a medal that night. That was probably when it all started. Because when we had gotten home that night, George, a little tipsy, had angrily blurted out that I made him look like a fool, and when I asked him how I could have done that, when I didn't even know the event would have turned out. He accused me of not dedicating the award to him, but I dedicated it to my bosses, and me, shocked and angry and feeling hurt about his statement towards my achievement, replied, and said he wasn't deserving of it. Well, let's just say I ended up apologizing several months for that slip-up. George wouldn't touch me after that. He barely made conversations with me, only spoke when necessary, came home late with excuses of work, forgetting we both worked in the same place, or that he met up with friends. I didn't complain because I knew I was at fault and tried everything to get back the man I used to know. Everything went back to normal on our 5th year anniversary when he had come home bearing gifts and apologizing for his behaviors in the past. We made up, and I was so happy and caught up in the moment I forgot we didn't use any precautions, and I didn't bother with a morning after pill. Yeah, it ended up the way you think it did. I got pregnant, and I was really horrified by the idea of having a kid. Then just 5 years into our marriage, I told George about it. He wasn't pleased, nor was he panicking, and asked me what I wanted to do with the baby, if I wanted to keep it or not. And then I realized I couldn't. We were, me especially, at the peak of our careers, and I couldn't ruin things for myself now and then again. George was earning enough, but not so much as for 3 people, since he insisted I keep my money and let him handle our financial lives. When I told him about my decision not to keep the baby, he didn't object, just went along with it. I had felt guilty after that, but I eventually shrugged it off as nothing. Besides, I could get pregnant later and have a baby, but I couldn't build my career again if it ended now because of a baby. My mom had always said back home when I was a child that a baby always takes off the remaining part of your life once you've had them, and honestly, I didn't want that for myself. Everything went on okay after then. George was back to the loving man I knew, and we were happy. Well, yeah, it didn't last as the 7th year of being married as I got promoted at work again. It didn't seat in well for George, I guess, because he didn't come home for days, and when he eventually did, he didn't talk to me. I tried everything, from setting up romantic dinner dates at home to sexy nightwear to everything else. He just wasn't interested. I tried holding conversations to sort it out, but it just ended with him shouting and getting angry with me, and I didn't know what to do. I gave up hope eventually, and it went on for 2 whole years, and eventually we literally became housemates. We related only when necessary and at work as boss and subordinate. Our 11th year of marriage was the turning point in our marriage, or maybe the turning point in my life personally. I met my lover, yes. I got myself a lover, and I was still married. I can call that the most thrilling time in my life. Maybe because George was my one and only boyfriend before we got married, so I didn't get the chance to explore as much as I could have if I hadn't gotten married as early as I did. Don't blame me for it. George wasn't exactly forthcoming with romance in our relationship, and I guess I became lonely and unhappy. Let me tell you how I met him. We were to hold a seminar and also recruit new staff from there, so it was a 2-in-1 thing. As one of the bosses, I was appointed to give a seminar talk, and I was very confident about it. It went well, and it was a huge success as we had different applicants to our bank. I was personally approached by applicants to ask questions. I was clearly enjoying myself that I didn't even look to George's direction once, and yes, George was also there. I remember clearly that day what he said. "You look too young and beautiful to be as successful as this." Yes, it was him. John, not his real name, but I'll name him that just for this post. He was clearly young and handsome, but certainly not the type to turn heads at first. I don't exactly remember the response I gave him because I was clearly offended by the statement he made. I've been accosted at different times by different people, and even my own husband, that I was either using money or my body to acquire the position I had. So I had grown defensive unconsciously. But I remember his next response turned the frowns into a grin and we went on talking. Mostly I was the one doing the talking and he was just nodding his head and asking a few questions, giving his own opinions here and there. I guess I liked that. Because I was used to people, by people I meant mostly George, arguing and refusing to let my opinion be heard, so it was a nice space to be in. We got interrupted that day by another person who wanted to ask me a question, and I had to eventually leave to attend to my other duties, so I had forgotten about him already. Until 2 months later, he was posted to our branch. It had been a pleasant surprise seeing him, and I was honestly pleased because he was a hard worker, and within a month working there, everyone approved of him and liked him, especially me. I don't know exactly what attracted me to him, but I just felt drawn to him. Maybe it was his easy smiles or the way he spoke. I guess he reminded me of George in those early years when he was wooing me. He was 24 then when we met, and believe me, I tried to resist him because I was obviously married even though my marriage was even as at that time hanging on a thin thread. I fell for John. He was fun and exciting and celebrated my achievements every time. It was very clear he admired me and he made sure I knew that every time. I tried everything that I could to hide my feelings for John at work and at home, but it became especially hard when he invited me to a romantic dinner under the pretense of being confused about a work-related issue. I had fun, I won't lie. He made me laugh, and I couldn't remember how many times I blushed that night. When the dinner came to an end, I was really reluctant to go home, and maybe it was the drink. Maybe I was really tipsy because when he kissed me, I wrapped my arms around his back and returned the kiss. Getting home from that dinner and the kiss I couldn't get out of my mind, George confronted me and asked me where I was and who I was with. Which was a surprise because I didn't think he cared enough for that, so I just ignored him and went into my room. Oh yeah, we shared separate rooms. After that night, we had many dinners together, mostly at his place so we wouldn't be seen by anyone, which was actually my suggestion, and one thing led to another. We became lovers. Being with John made me feel young and beautiful. He was very daring. He had at one time come over to my place and bent me over my husband's cushion, which he loved sitting on whenever he was home, and made crazy love to me. One time, under the pretense of having work with me in my office, he had made love to me over my desk. Too many details, but might I add that there was no place in his house that was decent again from our lovemaking. Months after my continuous affair with John, I don't know what exactly changed in George because he became the man I once knew. He apologized over a surprising dinner date and told me to let go of the past, as he too was. I wondered after what he was letting go of. He became very attentive, would make me dinner, began to celebrate my achievements, made love to me. I won't lie, at that point, although I still loved George, his lovemaking was null compared to John's. And yes, I still found time for John. We still saw and had our usual crazy sex. Our relationship became more exciting because the more George wanted to be the perfect husband, the more I craved John's attention. It's not my fault. John was very addicting, and we've gotten so involved that I couldn't break things off with him. It was a very difficult choice, but I eventually decided to play a happy wife and a wide lover. Everything finally fell apart one evening. We went to a mutual friend's wedding, and George was driving me home. I couldn't hide my shock when I got a message from my lover while we were driving. So then I was trying to hide my phone and mumbling something about work when George slowly parked the car. My heart was beating so fast I thought it would burst. I was trying to play an indifferent me, but I felt really scared when George slowly turned his head towards me and asked, "Which one of your lovers is it now?" I couldn't even hide my shock, and when I recovered enough to deny it, he shouted angrily at me. Oh no. George knew. It was then George told me angrily that he knew about all my affairs over the years. He told me bitterly that our marriage wasn't working those early years because he found out I slept with my friend to get him the investment job, and he knew I slept with every other one of them too. And he knew of my recent lover too, but he didn't know I would be so brave enough to rub it in his face. I begged and begged him for his forgiveness, but George said it was over. He decided to quit our marriage of 13 years, just like that. I know what you're all thinking, but I did it for him. I loved him very much, and I wanted him to have those deals and be happy. Please help me. I need advice. George announced he was moving out, and his lawyer will be the only connection between us from then. I need to save my marriage, please. Update. I'm still reeling from the comments on my previous post. I knew I'd face backlash for my actions, but I didn't expect it to be this intense. People have been lashing out at me, calling me names, and judging me without knowing the full story. It's like they think I'm some kind of monster. To be honest, the comments have left me feeling emotionally unstable. I've been questioning my own worth, wondering if I'm indeed a terrible person. But then I remind myself that I'm human, and humans make mistakes. I've been trying to take the advice from my previous post to heart. I've reached out to George, and we've had some tough conversations. I've acknowledged my mistakes and taken responsibility for my actions. I've also started attending therapy sessions to work through my own issues. But it's hard when everyone around me seems to be against me. Even my friends and family are judging me, telling me that I've brought this upon myself. It feels like I'm alone in this, like no one understands what I'm going through. I know I'm not perfect, and I've made mistakes, but I'm trying to learn from them, to grow and become a better person. I wish people could see that, and could understand that I'm not just a cheater, but a complex person with flaws and weaknesses. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm still struggling. I'm still trying to pick up the pieces of my shattered life, and I wish people could be kinder, more understanding. And I keep thinking about why I did what I did. I keep wondering if I was just blind or if I was truly trying to help. The truth is, I did it all for George. I thought I was making him happy, helping him succeed. I didn't realize that with every deal I secured, every client I brought in, I was slowly breaking him. I remember the way he used to look at me, with admiration and gratitude. I thought that's what love was, making each other happy, supporting each other's dreams. But now I see it was all a facade. He was struggling, and I didn't notice. I didn't know that my actions were suffocating him, that he felt overshadowed by my success. I didn't know that he felt like he was losing himself in our relationship. All I knew was that I loved him, and I wanted to make him happy. It's ironic, isn't it? I thought I was doing everything for him, but in reality, I was doing it all for myself. I was trying to prove my worth, my value in the relationship. I didn't realize that true love isn't about making each other happy all the time. It's about being honest, vulnerable, and supportive. If only I had known. If only I had seen the signs. Maybe things would be different now. Maybe we could have worked through our issues together. But now, I'm left to pick up the pieces of my shattered heart, wondering what could have been if only I had known. Update. Hello Reddit, it's Dee again. I'm exhausted. The constant barrage of negative comments, the judgmental looks, the whispered conversations behind my back. It's all becoming too much. I thought I was strong enough to handle it, but the truth is, I'm not. No one seems to care about my feelings, about how I'm struggling to come to terms with the collapse of my marriage. All they see is the cheater, the homewrecker, the villain. No one stops to think about the pain I'm in, the guilt I'm carrying, the shame I'm trying to overcome. I've had enough. I need a break from all this toxicity. I've decided to take some time off work, to get away from the constant reminders of my failures. I need space to think, to reflect, to try and make sense of it all. I know some people will say I'm running away, that I'm not facing the consequences of my actions, but the truth is, I'm facing them every day. I'm facing the shattered remains of my marriage, the loss of my best friend, the destruction of my own self-worth. All right. I just need some time to try and put the pieces back together. I need to figure out who I am, outside of my marriage, outside of my job. I need to learn to love myself again, to forgive myself, to heal. So, I'll be taking a step back from the world for a while. I'll be focusing on myself, on my own healing journey. I hope that when I return, people will see me in a different light. as a person who's trying to grow, to learn, to become a better version of herself. People think that I haven't been trying to win him back, but that's not the case at all, ... In fact, I thought that if I could just win George back, everything would go back to normal, so I tried to do all the things that I thought would please him. I cooked his favorite meals, wore the clothes he liked, even tried to initiate conversations about his interests. But no matter what I did, he wouldn't even look at me. It was like I was invisible to him. I felt like I was dying inside, like I was losing myself in the process of trying to save our marriage. I remember the other day, I spent hours cooking his favorite dinner, setting the table with candles and flowers, trying to create a romantic atmosphere. But when he came home, he just walked past me and didn't even acknowledge my efforts. I felt so defeated, so worthless. I realized that I was trying to buy his love, to earn his affection, but it wasn't working. He was gone, and I was just a shadow of myself trying to hold on to something that was already lost. It's hard, but I'm trying. I'm trying to let go of the need for his approval, his love. I'm trying to find my own identity, my own happiness. It's a journey, and it's not easy, but I know it's necessary. Update. Hey, Reddit. I have to admit, I was skeptical at first when one of the readers suggested I try therapy. I thought, what's the point? My marriage is over. I've ruined everything. But something about the suggestion resonated with me. Maybe it was the desperation. Maybe it was the hope that somehow, some way, I could fix myself, fix my life. So, I took a deep breath and made an appointment with a therapist. I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. But as soon as I sat down in her office, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. She was kind, non-judgmental, and empathetic. She listened to my story, and then she said something that struck me to my core. You're trying to fix everyone else, but you're not fixing yourself. She told me that I needed to focus on my own healing, my own growth, that I needed to learn to love myself, to forgive myself. She suggested I try journaling, to get my thoughts and feelings down on paper. She suggested I practice self-care, take time for myself, and do things that bring me joy. She suggested I try to rediscover who I am, outside of my marriage, outside of my roles as wife and employee. It was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I realized that I didn't have to be defined by my mistakes, by my failures. I could be more, I could be different. I left her office feeling hopeful, feeling like maybe, just maybe, I could learn to love myself, to forgive myself. Maybe I could learn to be happy again. I started journaling, and it was like unlocking a door to my soul. I wrote about my feelings, my fears, my dreams. I wrote about my marriage, about George, about the pain and the heartache. I wrote about my affair, about John, about the guilt and the shame. As I wrote, I started to see patterns, to see how my actions were driven by my own insecurities, my own fears. I saw how I had been trying to fill a void that I thought George or John could fill, but it was a void that only I could fill. I started practicing self-care, taking time for myself, doing things that brought me joy as recommended by the therapist. The therapist also suggested I try to forgive myself, to let go of the guilt and the shame. She told me that I was human, that I made mistakes, but that I could learn from them. She told me that I deserved forgiveness, that I deserved to be happy. It's hard, forgiveness. It's hard to let go of the past, to let go of the pain. But I'm trying. I'm trying to forgive myself, to forgive George, to forgive John. I'm trying to let go of the anger, the resentment, the bitterness. I'm trying to start anew, to start fresh. I'm trying to find myself, to find my own happiness. It's a journey of self-discovery, of growth, of healing. And I'm taking it one step at a time. Update. Hello, Reddit, it's me again. Not everyone has been supportive of my journey. Some readers have been slashing me online, saying that I'm delusional for thinking I need to forgive myself. They say it's George who needs to forgive me, that I'm the one who cheated, who broke our vows. And maybe they're right. Maybe I am the one who needs to be forgiven. But the thing is, I'm not asking for George's forgiveness. I'm asking for my own. I'm trying to forgive myself for my mistakes, for my weaknesses, so my therapist says I should do. I've even tried reaching out to George to ask him to try therapy with me. I thought maybe, just maybe, we could work through our issues together, but he refused. He said he's done, that he can't keep reliving the past. I understand. I really do. But it's hard not to take it personally. It's hard not to feel like I'm still being punished, still being blamed. The online criticism has been hard to take too. Some people have been so cruel, so heartless. They don't know me, they don't know my story, but they're quick to judge, quick to condemn. It's made me wonder if I'm doing the right thing, if I'm being selfish by trying to forgive myself. But then I remember why I started this journey in the first place. I'm doing it for me, because I need to heal, because I need to move on. I'm not going to let the opinions of others define me. I'm going to keep moving forward, keep seeking forgiveness, keep seeking healing. For myself. Well, that's a lie. I've realized that forgiveness is a journey, but I'm not sure I'm ready for it. I'm still stuck in the anger, the hurt, the resentment. I thought I could let go, but it's harder than I thought. I wish I didn't need George's forgiveness to move on, but I do. I wish I didn't need his approval or validation, but I crave it. I'm still trying to prove to him that I'm worthy, that I'm not a mistake. I thought I could focus on my own healing, my own growth, but it's hard when I'm still haunted by my past. I'm still trying to rediscover who I am outside of my marriage, outside of my roles as wife and employee. But it's hard when I feel like I've lost myself completely. I thought I could find my own identity, my own purpose, but it's elusive. I feel like I'm just going through the motions, trying to survive rather than thrive. I regret not being stronger, not being wiser. I regret not being more careful with the hearts of those around me. I regret not being able to make it work. I know I still have a long way to go, but I'm not sure I have the strength to keep going. I'm not sure I can face the consequences of my actions. I'm not sure I can forgive myself. I'm not the same person I was a year ago, but I'm not sure I'm better. I'm still broken, still battered, still bruised. I'm still trying to pick up the pieces of my shattered heart. I'm not grateful for the journey, not yet. I'm still trying to find the lessons learned, still trying to find the growth. I know I'll always carry the scars of my past with me, but I'm not sure I can see them as a reminder of my strength, my resilience. Not yet. Update. Hello, Reddit. I know my posts have been getting too much, but I just wanted to update you all on everything happening now. Yes, George and I are officially divorced. I know I deserve it, and he's probably in a better place now. He's left the town entirely and transferred to a location I know nothing about, but that's probably for the better. I wish I'd started rebuilding my relationships with my loved ones sooner. I wish I'd earned back their trust and respect before it was too late. But I didn't, and now I'm left with the regret of what could have been. My friends and family have been supportive, but I can tell they're still hurt by my actions. They've told me when I've messed up, when I've been selfish, and it's hard to hear. I wish I could go back and do things differently, but I can't. I've tried to explore new hobbies and interests, but nothing seems to fill the void left by my mistakes. I've tried to find joy in things outside of my marriage, outside of my roles, but it's just not the same. I'm not happier now. I'm just more numb. I'm not more fulfilled. I'm just more exhausted. I know I still have bad days, and I don't know how to deal with them. I'm still stuck in moments of doubt and fear. I know I'm not perfect, and I know I'll make mistakes again, but I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with being human, with being weak. I'm just regretful of the choices I made, of the pain I caused. Honestly, I'm not grateful for this journey. I'm just relieved it's over. I'm not excited to see what's next. I'm just anxious. I know there will be challenges ahead, and I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I can face them head on. I'm just trying to survive, to make it through each day without too much pain. I'm not living my life, I'm just existing. And it's a regret that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. Update. And then there are the people who ask about John. They want to know if I've broken things off with him, if I've ended the affair. They want to know if I've finally come to my senses and realized that I was wrong to cheat on my husband. At first, I didn't know how to answer that question. I didn't know if I was ready to let go of John, of the feelings I had for him. I didn't know if I was ready to face the consequences of my actions. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I had to end it. I had to end it for myself, for my own healing. I had to end it because I knew that I couldn't keep living a lie, couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay when it wasn't. So I did. I ended things with John. It was hard, but it was necessary. It was like ripping off a Band-Aid, painful, but ultimately liberating. I remember the day I ended it with him. I was nervous, my heart racing with anticipation. I didn't know how he would react, if he would be angry or sad or relieved. But as I told him that it was over, that I couldn't keep doing this anymore, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I felt like I could finally breathe again, like I could finally be myself again. It wasn't easy, of course. There were still feelings there, still emotions that I had to navigate. But I knew that I had made the right decision, that I had done what was best for me. John didn't take it easy, though. It started affecting his work so badly that the bank had to let him go, and I didn't see him after that. And it was better that way, right? Maybe. I don't know anymore. It's been a few months now since I ended things with John, and I'm still trying to pick up the pieces of my shattered heart. I thought I was strong, but I was wrong. I thought I was capable of moving on, but I'm still stuck in the past. I'm consumed by regret, by thoughts of what could have been if I had made different choices. I wonder what would have happened if I had stayed with John, if I had fought for our relationship. I wonder what would have happened if I had been honest with myself, if I had confronted my own flaws sooner. I'm not proud of myself, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of my weakness, my cowardice. I'm ashamed of the pain I caused, the love I lost. I thought I was growing, changing, but I'm still the same person I was a year ago. I'm still stuck in my ways, still afraid to face my own emotions. I'm still living in a state of emotional numbness, still denying my own flaws. I'm not ready to face whatever comes next. I'm still trying to survive the present. I'm not ready to start anew. I'm still trying to make sense of the past. I'm not grateful for this journey. I'm still trying to find a way out of the darkness. I'm not grateful to be me. I'm still trying to find myself. I'm not grateful to be alive. I'm still trying to find a reason to keep going. Update. Hey Reddit, this is regretfully and satisfactorily my last post on this app. I'm not sure where to start or how to put into words the emotions I'm feeling right now. All I know is that I'm left with a deep sense of regret and longing. I regret the choices I made, the pain I caused, and the love I lost. I regret not being stronger, not being wiser, and not being more careful with the hearts of those around me. To those who supported me, I'm sorry for letting you down. I'm sorry for not being the person you thought I was. I'm sorry for not being able to make it work. To those who hated me, I understand. I hate myself too. I hate the mistakes I made and the pain I caused. I'm not the same person I was when I started this journey. I'm broken, I'm battered, and I'm bruised. I'm left to pick up the pieces of my shattered heart and try to make sense of it all. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I'll be carrying this regret with me for a long time. I hope that someday I'll be able to find some measure of peace, but for now, I'm just trying to survive. Thank you for being part of my journey. Goodbye for now, and thank you.